Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for sending an email out with guidelines on visiting our newborn? 3 days ago, my wife and I had our first baby, a boy. Yes. Neither of our families are super clear on the whole boundaries deal when it comes to newborns. My parents are very old-fashioned and think that letting your kid eat dirt is better than any vaccine. And my wife's just have a tendency to be very me. We held off on visits for the first day. I'm a very anxious new parent. So when we decided that we'd have people come and meet our son, I sent an email out to everyone who said they wanted to come visit. I asked that nobody sick come to visit, and no children under 18, since schools are a breeding ground for viruses, as well. Because my mother is a heavy perfume user, I made a general note asking everyone to either go with light or no fragrance. There were some other things I threw in, asking people to let me know what time they'd like to come. Keep it between 9-5. Stay for an hour or less. No gifts since it'll be a hassle to bring home. And try to keep visits to 3-4 people at a time. I felt a little overbearing, but my wife read it over and said it sounded fine. Of course. I get a few snippy replies back, Ayla, do you need the last 4 of my social too? But most people texted me to let me know when they'd come around. Save for my parents and my in-laws. My parents show up at about noon, while my aunt is already there with her husband and their 2 adult children. I ask my parents to wait outside for a bit so they can finish up their visit without overwhelming my wife and I. But my aunt is polite and decides to cut her time short, without asking. My mother takes the baby and undoes his swaddle. My parents are mostly pleasant. An hour later, my parents are still there and my in-laws show up, their grandson in tow. My wife tells them that they can't bring him in. Their grandson starts to cry and my mill starts to scold us for forbidding children. So my father pipes up saying that we're being too coddling. Then, my mother starts up and tells us that we've been very rude and cold and says that as grandmother, it's her right to visit the baby when she pleases and she shouldn't have to RSVP to her grandson's birth. She calls me impolite for sending out a demanding email like I did and insists that if I regulate my son as strictly as I did his visitings, he'll grow up resenting my wife and I. We told them to go, and my mother told me she raised me too well to have me be so rude to my own family. My mill said that if my wife didn't crack down on me, they'd never be visiting again. My wife has changed her tune about the whole thing and thinks I was being too combative. I really don't think I was that wrong in exercising my boundaries, and I think that them not listening is proof it was needed. Am I the a-hole for sending an email out with guidelines on visiting our newborn? Too long didn't read. I sent an email with guidelines to visit our newborn. My parents and in-laws got upset over it. Am I the a-hole? NTA, your kid, your rules. You and your wife need to have a serious conversation about expectations in dealing with family and how best to project a united front while dealing with them. NTA, most of this is pretty common sense. Who stays for a long catch up when brand new recovering mom and baby are still in hospital, which I gather they are based on your post. Unfortunately, refusing to respect boundaries and having a sense of entitlement over the newborn doesn't bode well for your future privacy and your wife's recovery. Please stand your ground. You need to do what is best for you, your wife and your new babe. Period. ETA. Congrats on your son. NTA. Boundaries. You will need to have a heart-to-heart with your wife and establish boundaries. It sounds like you were on the same page, but she changed her mind. It's so important to make boundaries very clear with family members who don't think the rules should apply to them. I know your wife just gave birth, and you just want to do right by her. Talk to her, listen to her, come together and decide what the rules, guidelines, expectations, and boundaries are for your family. There will be pushback. That's fine. There will be grumbling and beaching and guilting. That is just something to work past. Your baby, your family, your rules. Establish boundaries now, so that as your child grows, it will make it easier for your extended family to follow. Congratulations. Hope it all works out. Everyone sucks here because you are the parent and they should respect your rules, but an email with guidelines seems a little extra. NTA. While I personally think you were doing way too much, it's your baby. I'm having a baby soon and my husband and I have already talked about boundaries we plan to set with all sets of parents. He has a lot because of divorces and whatnot. The only people that have rights to your baby is you. I would not put up with their comments for a minute. NTA. I sent out an ultimatum after every birth of each of my 6 children. No sick people. Vaccinated for flu/pertussis. And a few other minor things. My wife agreed. I'm sorry you have just no family and in-laws. There are subreddits for just no. Go check them out. Also look at race ethicists. The only statement that seems iffy is the no kids one. If you will ever have another kid, you'll be breaking your own rule. The rest? Beautiful examples of healthy boundaries. And removing the swaddle? Yeah, that can be a great way to have a screaming baby. Your wife may be in what they call fog, fear, obligation, guilt. I may be overreacting, but your story seems to support your and wife's parents' boundary stomping and ignoring your wishes for your family. Please read some of the posts on the Just No subreddits. See if any of them seem accurate for your family or your wife's. Everyone sucks here. As a parent and a grandparent, I see where you are coming from, but also where they are coming from. Yes, you have the right to decide who can be around your family and when. You also don't want to alienate those that love you in the process, especially not the ones that you may be reliant upon for advice or childcare needs in the future. Understand please that having a grandchild is way more joyful than even having your own child. All of the fun with no stress and responsibilities. So limiting their time with the baby is kind of making you tay here. Your parents and in-laws are tay for not humoring your wishes, at least while everyone is still in the hospital recovering. They could have at least allowed you to enjoy your new family in private for a few days before trying to have your sanctions lifted. Don't blame your wife if she is wishy-washy right now. Her hormones are all over the place. She is probably sleep deprived. She is definitely still in more pain than she is going to admit. Her mind and her body will never be the same again, and she needs time to adjust to her new normal. Congratulations on your baby, and lighten up. Buy plenty of hand soap and sanitizer. Even ask family to wear masks if you like. No joke. I made my brother-in-law wear surgical gloves because I just didn't trust his hand washing skills. But let your family get to know and bond with your child too. NTA boundaries are good. Your house and child, your rules. I'm sure your parents and in-laws have used the under our roof rule once or twice. Now it's your turn. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my vegan friend to my birthday dinner? Tomorrow is my 25th birthday, and my close group of friends and I have decided to celebrate at a pretty high-end steakhouse. There are 6 people in our inner circle, and we all pretty much consider one another brothers. Now, one of them became a vegan last year, which we were all extremely supportive of. We tried his vegan dishes and heard him out for his reasoning for switching his diet. No problem. However, recently, he's become much more blatant and semi-obnoxious about his insistence that we all adopt his vegan lifestyle. I'm assuming this is a result of the increased conversation about environmental issues and climate change. He'll lecture us anytime he sees us eating meat, and will even go as far as to make gag noises when we go to take a bite. It went from being light-hearted in nature to being extremely condescending and passive-aggressively rude. So as a result, our friend group came to the conclusion it would be best for him not to attend my dinner since it will be at an expensive steakhouse and his options for what he can eat will be limited anyways. And honestly, the last thing I want is to be lectured on my birthday when we're splurging on $50 steaks. It just ruins the vibe. My vegan friend has found out and is extremely upset about his non-invitation. However, he's also upset about our choice of venue, and accused me of being purposefully exclusionary and told me I should have picked a restaurant that we all could have enjoyed. On my birthday, I pointed out that we all went to a vegan restaurant for his birthday this year, and while none of us particularly cared for the food, no one complained. I haven't gotten a response. NTA on either account. It's your birthday. You get to choose. A nice steakhouse is a great way to celebrate. As for not inviting him, if he wasn't obnoxious about his veganism, I'm sure you would have invited him. He could have had a salad, sides, whatever. It's his pushiness about being vegan that led to his exclusion. Totally agree. But what I will say is that the better way for OP to handle this would probably be to just talk to his friend. I feel like there's a lot of posts on this sub that could honestly be solved by just having a simple conversation, and this seems like one of them. I understand that it isn't always easy to tell a close friend that something they're doing isn't cool, but this is a situation where it's warranted. OP could have sat down with his friend and basically told him, look, we all love you, and we're totally cool with your dietary choices, but the way you've been acting, trying to convince us to stop eating meat, or mocking us whenever we do has gotten exhausting. We respect your dietary choices, and only ask that you give us that same courtesy. That being said, I'm planning to have a birthday dinner at a steakhouse this year with all of us. If you would prefer not to come because of the location, I totally understand. But if you do want to come, I just ask that you be respectful towards everybody else who came out to have a good time, and don't want to be lectured. If the friend still acts this way, at least OP can say he did everything he could to make his friend comfortable. Again, OP is not the a-hole as is in any way, but there was a way to handle this situation better. In general, even if your reasons are just, inviting a group of friends to something, and not telling one person always backfires. They almost always find out about it one way or another, then get upset. At least this way, if the friend chose not to go, it would be his choice, and he probably wouldn't feel as excluded. NTA to both. The worst part is making a gag noise when you eat meat around him. That would make me stop being around him in the future, let alone a birthday dinner. It's rude and disgusting, and if one of my friends did that they would get a slap or the whole group would call him out on being disgusting. Secondly, it's your birthday and your choice. I would have said you're an a-hole for not inviting him if he hadn't been condescending and all around dong about you eating meat. Maybe say he's welcome to come as long as he doesn't start complaining about the food and making horrid noises as you eat. NTA. I'm vegan for reference. Your birthday, your choice. I've been for dinners at steakhouses and just had sides. I've made this diet my choice, so I have to deal with the consequences that not everywhere has lots of options. It's a choice to do this. It's not like you're excluding someone who has medical reasons or an allergy. Most places have at least a few sides. The obnoxious condescending crap annoys me too. People like your friend are why people think vegans are douches. He needs to grow up and stop forcing his opinions on others. My policy is only discuss my dietary choice when asked or when it's relevant. Someone is offering me food or in a discussion like this, tell him to NTA. But real adults communicate. You shouldn't be afraid to tell your friend that he isn't invited specifically because of his behavior. There's nothing worse than being left out and not knowing why. If he's really your friend, you'd be honest with him, because he will never consider changing his behavior if he doesn't know why you guys are being mean to him. Mean in his eyes. It really ducking sucks to be left out by your best friends and not know why. Also NTA for picking what you want for your birthday dinner. I just think this was a childish situation and you could have avoided it by just being honest with this person who you claim is your friend. NTA. You can pick any restaurant you want to eat at whenever you want, especially on your birthday. If your friend wasn't such a ducking a-hole about his new lifestyle, you would have invited them. If they want to play the victim of their own actions, let them. Not your problem. I pointed out that we all went to a vegan restaurant for his birthday this year, and while none of us particularly cared for the food, no one complained. I haven't gotten a response. This is all the logic you need right here in a nutshell. Tell him you are sorry, but with his loud complaints concerning your meat eating, a steakhouse is not a place for him. Offer that if he can keep his petty vegan attitude about meat eating to himself and be a decent person in public, as you all presumably were to him during his vegan birthday, you'll invite him. If not, stay home. NTA. NTA. Your birthday and he's being a major ass to you guys. What is it with people always expecting the birthday person to go to where they want? Nope. NTA. Your birthday, your choice. And absolutely you're right not to have someone potentially spoil the experience by bemoaning your food choices or deliberately making gagging noises while you eat. That's way more disrespectful than what your friend perceives as a slight against him by your choice of restaurant. I'm a vegetarian, and will tell you that you are absolutely NTA. It is your birthday. You eat what you want. You are under no obligation to cater to his desires. Had he a history of being okay with other people living the way they want to and him living his way, simply leading by example not through a lecture, I'd say it would have been wrong to exclude him. But he didn't. He has a history of being a pushier. Your point about the accommodation on his birthday for eating at a vegan place is telling. And quite frankly, I'd consider not even having this type of person as a friend. NTA, you would have been the R if you excluded him just because he was vegan, which I expected from the title and I was ready to pass judgment. But you excluded him because he behaves terribly every time you eat together. Nobody has to put up with lectures and gag noises while they are eating, especially not on their birthday. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.